Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Hunter from Outtenastrophotography. Join me tonight as we finally have some clear skies again after about what seems like a month, as we go after one of my all-time favorite galaxies that is pretty low in the horizon for me here, but we're gonna try it anyway. So join me tonight after we go after the Sculptor galaxy. Yeah, a little bit of a different intro, huh? And I had that recently made for me, actually, just today of recording this video. But we've been looking at tons of clouds this past like 3 weeks. We had impacts of that massive hurricane. Luckily, all the worst impacts were down further south of us, but we still had to deal with a lot of like the misty showers, the clouds, and it was just very unsettled weather for quite some time. And finally, now that it's October, we have some clear skies again, luckily. Yeah, so the weather has been completely awful here lately, but it looks like now, this weekend, even going all the way in towards next week, actually look very good. And we just passed the new moon right now, so definitely going to be going after some more broadband targets here relatively soon as I switch back over to my refractor for what we are going to be shooting tonight. Now, I mentioned before that tonight I'm going to be going after one of my all-time favorite galaxies out there, known as the Sculptor galaxy, located in the constellation of Sculptor, or NGC 253. Now, I have not been able to image this target ever, really, because for one, here in the northern hemisphere, Sculptor and wherever this galaxy is maybe gets up to about 30 degrees above the horizon, and it's all in the southern portions of the sky. And where I used to live, I didn't really have a shot to shoot anything that's kind of low on the horizon in the south. But now that I'm here at my own house that I bought, and we're able to actually do this, but unfortunately I can't go in the backyard to image this target because of trees, so we have to go out front, unfortunately, which is a little bit closer towards the road. Not really the most ideal kind of setup, but that's where I have the best location to be able to have like obscured free from any like power lines, or just basically a complete shot all the way down to the horizon for this target to be able to image it, because this should frame up quite nicely in my Explorer Scientific refractor. So why the Sculptor galaxy is one of my favorite of all times, because it's so unique in its structure. It's actually extremely bright for being in a NGC galaxy, and just the size of it as well. I remember way back in like the late 2000s when my friend was using his Meade ETX 90, and we were just trying to learn some astrophotography back then, and we were just taking like 30-second exposures, and that was the one that always stood out to me, and it basically just became a favorite of mine for, you know, all these years going forward. And I have not been able to actually image it myself, so I'm very excited to be able to finally do this target some justice and really start bringing it up to life. Now we might be in for a 2-for-1 special, not only going to be imaging this galaxy, but maybe arriving tonight, we may be able to see the northern lights all the way down here in Delmarva because of a extremely powerful solar flare that occurred a couple days ago. In fact, it was the strongest of the entire solar cycle so far of 25, of an X9 flare. That's a pretty significant flare that we haven't seen in, you know, quite a long time now, and with the CME basically directed right at planet Earth. So it is expected to arrive sometime here in the next couple of hours. It is a little bit behind schedule, which is, you know, okay, because it's still daylight here over in the northern hemisphere and North America wise. So basically a little bit later that it is, the better we have for the chance of seeing it. And if we can happen to get up to that KP7 or even 8, we will be seeing northern lights, and I'll be taking photos of that too to include in this video. Now it's approaching closer towards nightfall. Let's see what kind of equipment we're going to be using for this target tonight. Alright, now here is the setup for this evening. I have switched back to my Explorer Scientific 102mm triplet refractor, which is an f7 system with a focal length of about 714 millimeters, but I will be using my Starfield Optics 0.8 focal reducer and flattener, which brings the system down to an f5.5 at 571. And of course, going to be using the ZWO AM5 straight wave gear mount on the pier extension and just the regular tripod, since I will not be using my pier tonight, unfortunately. Taking photos tonight, we'll be using the ZWO ASI 2600MC Pro, which is a one-shot color camera, APS-C sensor. And inside of the filter wheel here, I will be using a broadband filter, the Optolong L Quad Enhance. Guiding everything tonight, we'll be using the SV Bonnie 60mm guide scope and a little bit of a different guide camera tonight. I'm actually trying out the ZWO ASI 678 Mono to see how this runs everything. And of course, controlling everything will be the ZWO ASI Air Plus, all together for this wonderful target tonight. Alright, so that's what we're working with tonight. We're going to wait for nightfall to begin doing some polar alignment. And then we have to wait a couple of hours until the Sculptor Galaxy actually comes up above the horizon here, which is roughly between about 10 and 10:30. So I'm probably going to be picking a very short-term target, maybe like a globular cluster or something like that beforehand. So you might see a different image as well for this video. Right now it's a little bit after 10 o'clock at night. I filled in with a little bit of some 2 quick 1 hour sessions on some open clusters like the ET cluster and this one right here of the double cluster, just to kind of fill the time in. So let's go ahead and set things up for the Sculptor Galaxy. Let me go ahead and stop my guiding as of now. And we're going to roll over to the plan option, which I've already gone and done this. Open up in the details. We'll refresh this. And I'm going to be doing 2-minute exposures, especially at this focal length. That's what it seems like is usually best for the 102. Be able to do these 2-minute exposures. We got everything all set up. So we'll go ahead and select things and let it go on its way. I put it at 200 exposures for it, but oh, interesting, it said that the SD card is full. Huh. Okay, so we're gonna have to fix that and go over to the internal memory, which is no big deal. Go ahead and start this up for tonight and let it go too. Now this target right now is only maybe about 20 degrees above the horizon, so it's not really the most ideal, but the highest it gets is only 30. So I gotta deal with what I got. There is some light pollution down to my south in where this area is, but we'll try and do our best with it tonight. We're gonna let the guiding settle, and then we'll wait for the first image. Alright, the first exposure has come in, and we can see the Sculptor Galaxy right there. Like I mentioned, it is kind of low on the horizon, so this is about the best we're going to get. But as the night goes on, it should be getting a little bit better, and then we'll wait for what we have for the morning hours. So I'll see you then. Alright, now that we're back here on the computer, went ahead and stacked all of the data, got roughly about 12 hours worth of just straight broadband data of this. So this is the first time I'm actually looking at what we captured here. So I'm going to do a unlinked stretch here. This is a 2x drizzled image, so it is a little bit on the larger side. And here we go, and wow, even just straight out of the stack, this looks fantastic. This is great. Lots of intricate detail here. You can see a little bit of the hydrogen alpha regions inside of here too, and I didn't even use a narrowband filter. So let's go ahead and start processing this. But we're going to start off with some DBE, background extraction. I like to just use Graxpert. It's just very quick and easy, and it gets the job done pretty darn well. So that's the first thing we are going to run, is a little bit of Graxpert. I'm going to put this down to like 0.64, and we're going to go ahead and let it run its course here, which will only take a very quick moment to do so. So we'll come back here once it's done. Okay, we have done a little bit of some DBE, and I'm noticing that typical ring that I always get with my refractor, which is okay because we're really just going to focus on the galaxy itself, because there's nothing really along the outside here, and I really just want to have a nice zoomed in, very high detailed image of the galaxy itself. So the next thing I'm going to do is blur exterminator. Here, I'm going to let that run, do some deconvolution with it, let that do its thing here, and we'll go on to the next step. Alright, blur exterminator is done. Let's zoom right on in here and spot the differences. This is before, and then this is after. So sharpen up the intricate detail here. There is some dark dust lanes around the side, and it sharpened up these stars quite a bit. Next thing we're going to do is a little bit of some noise exterminator here. Gonna apply that over, which will only take a moment here. There we go. Now we have done the big three. Now we're going to do a little bit of some color calibration with SPCC, spectrophotometric color calibration. And the filter that I used was the L Quad Enhance, so I just got to select those for each of these channels, R, G, and B. Drag it right on over so we can color calibrate. And then we get to start stretching our image. Alright, white balance is looking good on the chart here, so I'm going to go ahead and close all those out. And now the fun part is we get to start stretching our images. So I like to go through kind of like a series of steps to stretch the image. Sometimes you can use, generalized hyperbolic stretch. I also have some pre-made scripts that I have here. I just kind of like to test them just to see which one happens to work the best. So we're going to do the one that is a PixelMath that does generalized hyperbolic stretch, just to see what it kind of looks like, and then just pick the best one out of the bunch here. So we're going to try this one first and see what we come up with, because sometimes with GH stretch, the script here, it really likes to blow out the galaxy itself, and the background makes it way too bright. So we're going to see what that looks like. That actually doesn't look too bad, as a matter of fact. I don't actually hate that one, so I'm going to stick that one off towards the side. We're going to do, a link stretch with a histogram transformation. Let's see what this one looks like. Kind of whites out everything and adds a bit of noise to the background. So I'm not going to use that one. And then we're going to do one more, which is SETI Astro's statistical stretch. I'm going to load that bad boy up. And I like to just use the default settings for this and just check the automatic convergence. So when we do a preview of this, we're going to see what this looks like. And it's not too terribly bad, at least for this stock stretch. What happens if I do his other method, which is for distinct objects like galaxies or planetary nebulas? We'll do another refresh on here. Should tone down the background a little bit because the background is a little bit too bright for my liking. There we go. We're gonna execute this. Okay, so this is what SETI Astro's statistical stretch here, which actually looks pretty darn good. I like the background and the textures in the center here. And then compared to the generalized hyperbolic stretch scripts that I have, definitely the one on the left is what we are going to be working with, it seems like. Even though the core here looks pretty good compared to here, but we can make this also a lot better as well. I just like the background is not as noise generated. So this is what we're going to work with here. So what I'm going to do is just do a little bit of a preview window. I'm just going to basically crop it right through there. Actually, I'm going to include that one star. Just get this here in the center. Minimize that. And I think this is a good area to start with. Man, look at that detail in this galaxy in itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and go further down the line of messing with the colors here. So first thing we're going to do is get rid of the stars here. We're going to use Star Exterminator with a large overlap. Let that run its course. Alright, there's our stars. We'll rename them as stars, and then we're going to stick them off towards the side. And let's see what happens when we add a little bit of some dark structures, because I really want to pick up that dust lane right there. I'm not going to do anything too extreme with this because sometimes it likes to do this all the way around the side. But I may be able to get a mask on here to do it. So we're going to do it at like 0.15 and see what it looks like. I just don't want to cause a shadow around the whole outside of the galaxy itself. Like that was what I was afraid of, unfortunately. But it did touch those areas a little bit there in the galaxy. So we're going to have to do that separately here. But let's do a little bit of some sharpening here. Just use the script utilities, advanced sharpening, and just use the standard. And there we go. We sharpen up those deep details very nicely. Not too extreme, just nice and subtle. So now we're going to be adding a little bit of some saturation to this. So we need to make a mask for our galaxy using the range selection tool. Make sure I get the entire galaxy here. Put the fuzziness all the way. And do some smoothing to make our mask. Rename this the starless before I forget later on down the line. Alright, now let's open up our curves transformation tool. Start bringing up that saturation. Now, I've seen from a lot of people that they have a lot of blue in the outside of their galaxy for this, and that nice, like, yellowish core in the center. I'm kind of liking this little bit of a darker look to it. But we'll be able to play with more of the colors around the outside here when we start using a different tool. So that looks pretty good as far as saturation goes. We can start messing with some of the other features of this. So we don't need that range mask anymore. And we're going to go over to Scripts, go over towards the toolbox, and Selective Color Correction. This tool is really nice here because you'll be able to go through each of the different colors. You got red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, yellow, and even mess with like the areas of low saturation, high saturation, midtones, luminance, or your mask in general. So we're going to go through, we're going to start off with the reds, because I do want to get this core a little bit more brighter, and I want to try and bring out some of those hydrogen alpha regions that are located here. So we're going to start off with the red. We're going to start bringing that up here. And the nice part is it automatically makes your mask for you right on here. So you don't even have to make mask for this. This is a wonderful tool. And I know that Adam Block has been using this a lot too, especially when doing his narrowband stuff. But it also works for broadband like this as well. So we're going to do some changes here. We're going to adjust the colors. I'm going to tone down the greens a little bit. Trying to make it that nice red, but not overly saturated. And just a little bit more saturation to this, and that looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and apply that. Now we're going to work on our blues. We can see if we can try and bring out a lot of the blues in the background here. Yeah, you can see a little bit all along the outside for our mask. See if we can bring out some blues. Maybe some cyan. And it's just really subtle around the outsides. I don't want to put it too much, so we'll go ahead and apply that. Work on a little bit of some yellows there in the center. So we're going to mix our reds and yellows. There we go. That looks really good right there. And then we're going to work on a little bit of some low saturation areas. We're going to see if we can bring out this prominent dust lane right here. If we add a little bit of some like reduction in luminance. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so the luminance for low saturation is pretty much the whole entire thing. So a lot of this is just trial and error. Add some contrast. Actually, the contrast works a little bit the best to bring out that dust lane. Add a little bit more saturation of color. Mess with some highlights. Bring up some shadows. All right, that's looking pretty darn good right there. We'll apply that. Mess with a little bit of the midtones. That's a little bit of that color. That's not too bad. Looks good. Areas of high saturation. Not much changes through there. And the luminance aspect. So we can brighten the overall region of the galaxy. A little bit more saturation, some contrast. And that looks pretty solid right there. Beautiful. All right, so we're looking pretty darn good here. Have a little bit of some noise there in the background. Not too bad. We can run like another like weak area of noise exterminator just to kind of smoothen that out. Just enough right there. Yeah, there we go. That looks really good. Okay, so I'm satisfied with this right here. Let's go ahead and open our stars. We can start working on them. Go ahead and remove any of the greens with this modified SCNR script that I have. Also going to do it in the invert because you can see around the outside of here, because I've had this question asked before, why do I run SCNR twice? Well, I run it in the regular state and the invert because in the invert you still have some greens there around your stars, especially when you're shooting with one-shot color cameras. So there we go. I got rid of that. Alright, we're gonna run a star mask here. Just scale this a little bit bigger because of the spikes that I have of my little 3D printed star spike that I put in front of my refractor, which I know for some people is frowned upon, but I've always loved star spikes, especially in my images. It really settles it with galaxies for sure. Okay, we're going to add this over top of our stars, hide the mask in the background, and we're just going to simply do some saturation. I like really colorful stars in my images, so I'm usually a little bit more aggressive when it comes to my saturation than most because I like color in my stars, and who doesn't? Looks pretty good right there. Alright, we can get rid of our mask, and now the fun part is, let's go ahead and combine both our stars and our starless here. We're going to rescreen them back with this script right here. Create new image. Run it. And there we go. Look how beautiful that is. Beautiful galaxy shot of 12 hours. Everything else looks really good as well. I may do some slight changes to the background, kind of make it slightly darker. But I also want to do a little bit of some star reduction, especially with these halos that I'm seeing around these stars. We'll go ahead and do that before I start messing with the background a little bit more. So I have a tool here to be able to easily do it, thanks to Bill Blanchett and Mike Cranford. I'm going to go ahead and preserve the small stars. And I want to zoom in, especially on those areas there. See which method is better. Looks like the star method is the way to go. And we just be very subtle with this. We don't have to go extreme. But that looks nice and satisfying right there. Alright. So there is our reduced stars. And man, this is looking really nice. And we'll mess with, and see if we can darken up the background just a tad bit more. Something like right there. That looks great. Alright. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the final product, I think, right here of the Sculptor Galaxy. One of my favorite all-time galaxies, and this is the first time I was able to image it here because I finally have a good southern horizon where I'm living at. So we're going to do a lot more imaging here coming up because I got a lot of clear skies here over the next course of like 1 to 2 weeks. Big area of high pressure, lots of clear skies. Finally got rid of the 3 and 4 weeks of nothing but clouds and misty conditions. So expecting a lot more videos like this here on the channel. And hopefully here soon, by the end of the month, I have a really cool review video. I'm just waiting on that certain product. So thank you as always for, checking out the videos. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I have all of the scripts that I use that are free into the description, so you can have them for your own self, for your processing needs. And yeah, so that's going to be it for today's video. And as always, clear skies, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.